Welcome to the REI Freedom Podcast, where real investors get real results. Each week, Jeremy Beland shares his sales strategies and acquisition systems behind 450 plus off-market deals and well over $10 million in profits. Today's episode features Scott Carson from Austin, Texas, a 20-year investor who specializes in buying distressed notes directly from banks. You'll learn exactly what note investing is, why banks sell them, and how you can start doing these deals yourself. It's brought to you by our free guide, More Deals, Bigger Deals, Less Cancellations. Grab your copy at reifreedom.com/gift. Let's dive in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another weekly episode here at the REI Freedom Podcast. I am Jeremy Beland, your host again this week. So happy to have you guys. We are getting more and more traffic each and every week, and we are continuing to grow. We're here now, 2 years of recording this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate it. So today, talk about someone who's been doing podcasts for a long time. Well, this guest, he just recorded his 1,000th episode on his podcast. You'll find me as a guest on there in coming weeks as well. Super excited. Today, we're going to talk to Scott Carson out of Austin, Texas, and we're going to talk about something a little different today that we've never talked about on this podcast. So make sure you guys listen up. You may want to listen to this twice because I think this is going to be some good information. But today, he's going to teach us what he does in his business, which is buying distressed notes from banks. That's right. He's buying notes from banks that don't want to deal with it at great discounts. This is yet another way that you can make money in real estate in a way that a lot of people probably aren't doing it. So let's get started because I'm super excited. Scott, welcome to the show.
Jeremy, honored to be here. Congratulations on 2 years. That's phenomenal. That puts you in a rare air, buddy, because most people give up after like 10 episodes and you just keep cranking stuff out and you're doing an amazing job. So if you're listening to this, instead of wait till the end to subscribe, make sure you subscribe now, leave them a 5-star review, because we as podcasters, we love to hear from people, especially our audience, so that we know we're not just talking to a microphone. So I'm here to help answer any questions that you might have and add some value to your audience. But yeah, I've been known as a note guy for over 15 years and bought over $1 billion. That's $1 billion in distressed debt from a variety of different banks, lenders, financial institutions across the country. And yes, banks will sell notes. You're not going to go out and buy a non-performing note from Bank of America, Chase, or Citibank. On the residential side, no, but maybe on the commercial side. But there are so many banks and institutions that have bad mortgages on their books that they are looking to get rid of them. And it's going to get worse. It may not be exactly as bad as it was in 2008, 9, 10 through 2014, but we're probably going to get about halfway there based on my numbers and everything that I see out there. So yeah, bought a bunch of debt on any type of residential commercial property you can think of. And it pays to be the bank because I'm not necessarily going after the property. I actually like being the bank. So when you buy the note, you become the lender. And then we like to work it out with the homeowners or property owners. Instead of rehabbing the property, we like to rehab the borrowers. That doesn't mean like sending them to the Betty Ford clinic to dry out, from being drunk or anything. But we've got a variety of strategies that we work with them to either get back on track making payments, modify the loan, cash for keys, friendly foreclosures, settlements, and all sorts of things. So that's a little bit about what I do.
That's terrific. And I'm going to ask you all the questions because I really want to know the logistics of all this. And, typically, us who actually buy the houses and not the notes, when we're buying multifamily properties that come with tenants and that nature, we're always looking for a way to get the tenants out, right? Even though the non-performing tenants or non-performing homeowners or whatever the case is, if you're buying at auctions, we're always looking for creative ways to avoid the foreclosure, but sometimes the foreclosure or eviction is inevitable. But in your situation, so let's start at the beginning. How do you even contact the bank to find out you're getting distressed notes? Like, how does that even work?
So the great thing is most banks have to, if they want to keep their FDIC insurance, they've got to report to the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation every quarter what their balance sheets look like, right? And they've got to share how much of their mortgages are behind 30 to 89 days, how many are 90 plus days behind, how many they've written off, both residential, commercial, multifamily. So they have to share this stuff on a quarterly basis. So you can literally go in and see a bank's balance sheet by looking at their quarterly report. It's pretty easy to find. Like I was talking to a bank out of Michigan 2 days ago, and they were like, oh, we don't have anything. I'm like, oh, really? I was like, you've done pretty good, but I have a report from June 30th that says that you have $400 million in residential debt that's beyond 90 days past due. And they're like, how the heck you come on? I was like, come on, man. Don't BS a bullshitter here. I'm here to help you. What do you want to get rid of? And so that's the thing, is looking at a bank's balance sheets. You can see this stuff. It's public information. We use a company called like Bauer Financial as kind of a cheat sheet that, will pull information on every bank that has 5 or more branches is what we kind of target. And then we'll look at that spreadsheet to see who's got the most amount of bad debt, and then either dollar for dollars or jump on LinkedIn and start searching for specific job titles. And so that's one big nugget I want to share with folks, is you're not going to walk down to your local bank and talk to your banker and say, hey, I want to buy some notes. They're going to laugh. We don't sell notes, is what they're going to tell you. Because that used to be me. I used to be a banker for JP Morgan Chase and Bank One back in the day, years ago. And people come in, we want to buy notes. Oh, we don't sell their notes. Well, every bank sells their notes. It just depends on how big. So like the big 5, 6 banks, they want to sell in like $50 million portfolios.
Right. And packages. Yeah.
Exactly. But there's so many other smaller regional banks, or even some big banks like Capital One will sell stuff off. But you got to know who to ask for. So if you go to LinkedIn right now and type in special asset manager, that'll give you a whole list of people that works for banks and lenders who handle the distressed note sales. You could also look for chief credit risk officer. That's going to be more of your smaller local mom and pop branches. A secondary marketing manager would be another job title for a bigger bank. Or you also could literally type in whole loan trader, which is a job title for like big insurance companies and REITs that handle their note sales. So that's what we've done for years. Instead of having a dollar for dollars like I used to have to do back in the day when I started doing this back in 2007, 2008, we'll leverage LinkedIn and make these connections with these asset managers and then follow up with them. Hey, what do you have on your books that you're looking to get rid of this quarter or this month? Not every bank sells every quarter, but a lot of them have stuff that's getting bad on their books that they're looking to sell off. And we're usually buying stuff, not where somebody's just like 30 or 90 days late. We're usually buying something where they're at least 6 months to 6 years behind on payments. So we get a much steeper discount by buying the note. And I'm only buying first lien senior mortgages. I like to be in the driver's seat. And we buy it at a discount, and then we literally become the bank. And then we have the same rights to work it out. And a lot of people will ask, well, why would a bank sell you a note versus going through the foreclosure process? Well, because they don't want to go through. Exactly. They don't want to own the real estate. The banks do not want to own your property, for those out there. Okay. They don't want to deal with all the headaches. Okay. They would rather get, say, 50, 60 cents of what's owed from me. Now they can go lend that out. Loss. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I make my money by taking over these problem children. And then, like, let's just use some simple numbers. Let's say they've got a house that's worth $200,000. They owe $210 because they've been paid in a couple months. Is at a 6% interest rate. If I come in and buy that at 50 cents on the dollar of current value and pay $100,000 for it, and I can get them back on track because I'm in a much more flexible position. Say, hey, Jeremy, what happened? What's your country western song? Your wife leave you. Your dog died. You get laid off. Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Whatever it might be. Can you start paying now again? I know you've been behind for a year, but can you start paying now? Yes, I can start paying now. Okay. Can you pay a little bit extra? Yeah. So if I'm buying a note at 6% at 50 cents on the dollar, and I can start making the normal payment, that's instantly a 12% cash and cash return to me.
Sure.
Right?
Cash flow. Yeah.
If I bring a couple extra months to the table, skin in the game, we always require this. It can lead to a, high teens, if not 20% cash and cash return for some of cases. And then we'll hold that note for cash flow for 12, 24, 36 months. Once the borrower's been on time for at least 12 months, it's reclassified as a reperforming note. So I could turn around and sell that note back to Wall Street. If I bought it at 50 cents on the dollar, I could turn around and sell it back at 80, 85, 90 cents on the dollar. And I just made a huge ROI without even having to lift a finger to fix it or flip it, never deal with toilet stints and trash outs, and just, be a lien lord versus a landlord. You know what I mean?
All right. So a lot to unpack here. So you're using a third party to basically identify banks that have 5 branches or more, that have properties that, not all banks have loan on properties, but many do. Identifying these. Back in the day, you used to have to cold call these, powers of whatever, the people in power, these situations, with these big fancy titles that you're rambling off that I don't understand. But now, thanks to LinkedIn, which I used to do in my professional career too, we was just sending LinkedIn messages all the time. Everybody, especially in that type of world, right? Everybody's on LinkedIn because that's they want to probably get hired at other places for higher paying jobs. So you're reaching out to these people, they're telling you no, but you know it's a yes. So it's a simple process. It's an easy process, but it's not really easy, right? Because it's going to require you effort you're going to send out a lot of LinkedIn messages. You're going to make out a lot of contacts, and it's like anything else, right? It's a sales 101. You're going to get a lot of people in the funnel, then work these people, but eventually you're going to find these people say, hey, yes, man, we actually have these properties. I got to set my bosses on my butt. We just had our annual meeting, whatever, our investors are telling us we got to whatever, and they got to get rid of it. And then that's when you come in and say, hey, we're going to buy you 50 cents on the dollar. But what makes the bank say this is a qualified buyer, right? You could just be some, Joe Smo. How do they know you can perform? And on top of that, Scott, how are you buying these? I mean, do you just have like endless money? Are you Scrooge McDuck, or are you borrowing money from somebody else to buy these? How does it logistically work to buy all these notes 50 cents on the dollar?
Let's talk that first part, and I'll cover the Scrooge McDuck aspect of the second side, which is I like that. The first thing is you pass the smell test. First of all, most people are not calling these internal numbers or have any clue how to get into them. Okay. So if you're actually have tracked down the right person and are saying the right things, like the biggest complaint you would make would be, hey, I buy notes in REOs. Well, that doesn't sound good. I'm literally looking for notes, looking for distressed notes. And they may ask you a few questions like how long you've been doing it, or who's your servicing company. And I can say, well, we use Madison Management, or we use a third-party servicing company that's doing the collections, and they're licensed in the states that we're buying. And so you just pass that smell test. Now, it doesn't mean you have to have a lot of experience. I'll give you an example. I got Brian and Lisa up in Dallas right now. They just got their first 2 notes sent to them, and they already bought 2 one-off notes direct from a hedge fund last month for pennies on the dollar because the bank was motivated to get rid of this portfolio, right? So you don't have to have $5 or $10 million like a lot of people say. You can buy a lot of one-off notes that are smaller balance stuff as well too, all across the board. And then, like I said, just pass it and you're following up. The thing I always like, coming from the real estate investor background like I did wholesale deals, I fixed and flipped beforehand, I chased foreclosures. The thing that always was aggravating, especially here in Texas, where it has the fastest foreclosure time frame in America in less than 30 days, it's always hard to get 1 or 2 postcards or direct mail pieces out to people, right?
Right.
And you're just dropping a lot of money. And I never found that attractive because I'm going to spend thousands of dollars and people are calling me the week after the auction, right? I can't do anything with them.
Late.
Exactly. I've gotten 3 of your letters, but I decided to call when the sheriff was knocking on my door. Well, I can't help you there. Exactly. So what I always liked is when I got into the right department at the bank and they would send me 50 to 100 every month or every quarter, I was like, oh, this is a rinse and repeat cycle that I don't have to spend thousands of dollars on direct mail pieces. Okay. Also, they're not emotionally attached to this. There's no drama about living in it and fighting with it. Yes, don't get me wrong, there's emotion with the borrowers and everybody, but I can work with a third-party servicing company to handle the negotiations back and forth with the borrower. Or if they won't play ball, then I just put it with my attorney and he does the foreclosure in that state. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I always liked about it. I was getting bigger discounts, not having to fight people back and forth. I knew the bank was motivated to move it because the longer that note was sitting there non-performing, the bigger the discount I could get. Those are 2 things. With a bigger discount, we all know bigger ROI without having to deal with the property management side of things. Don't get me wrong, we still end up foreclosing and on a chunk of them, but most of the time we're just keeping people in their houses if we can, about 70%. As far as financing these, no, I'm not Scrooge McDuck. We use OPM like anybody else. You can't use a hard money lender because they're more interested in the short-term loan. So we're actually using private investor funds. Lenders. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we do a lot with self-directed IRA investors.
How do you protect them?
So we're only buying a first lien. So that's the first thing. We're only buying a first lien. Now you can't put a note on a note.
Yeah, right.
So and there's no deed being transferred. So what transfers in ownership of a mortgage isn't a deed. Well, in a contract for deed there is, but anyway. But in a true 30-year mortgage or 40-year mortgage, it's what's called an assignment of mortgage that transfers the ownership and the right to collect. So we secure them in a couple of ways. One, they can have their LLC or their IRA, whatever they're going to fund through, co-named on the assignment of mortgage that gets transferred and recorded at the county. And the minute that we foreclose, then we convert that relationship to a first lien on that REO at that point, right? We may put them on another lien. We may actually, depending on how much they're bringing to the table, we may create a special purpose LLC where they have ownership of the LLC and then owns that portfolio of notes or the single asset. So there's a couple of variety of ways to protect it. Of course, we always put insurance on the property. If there's not insurance on it, We always double check taxes, make sure that taxes aren't going to wipe us out. And that's the great thing is that we're usually buying, well below 70%. So if something happens, like COVID drags stuff out, we can turn around.
Protected.
Yeah, exactly. We tried, but don't get me wrong. There's weird things that will happen from time to time.
You'll have that in anything in real estate.
Exactly. Nobody expects, COVID to kick in and drag things out to foreclose for a year.
No.
Nobody expects insurance to triple in God's waiting room floor, like you and I were talking about. But the thing is that we are usually seeing deals 6 to 12 months ahead of most real estate investors because we're getting these lists from banks and lenders directly before they ever hit the list pendants or the notice default lists or anything like that. So that the things I always like was that we were kind of being the closer to the source means we were faster to get these deals sent to us in a lot of cases.
So I understand that there's probably multiple ways for you to take a note and make money, but what is the ideal scenario? Are you looking to bring these people current for a year so you can resell it to Wall Street at 80, 90 cents on the dollar? Is that really the ideal situation here?
Yeah. So hindsight's always 20/20, right?
Right.
So I look back, like I said, I've been doing this for over 15 years. My first 2 years as a note investor, I came into it from the fix and flip. I'm going to foreclose. I didn't want to offer anybody a loan modification. Like, oh, you're a deadbeat borrower. You can't pay. You no pay, stay. I'm going to foreclose on everything, right? And as I got, and that means, okay, so now I'm foreclosing on stuff that's taking months to foreclose, sometimes a year or longer. I'm paying servicing costs every month. I then got to pay attorney fees, and then I got to rehab the property and hope to sell it. Now, the bright point is most of these assets went up in value over time, so my profit margin was pretty good, but it's still no immediate cash flow. And we all know cash flow is king. And looking back, if I would have probably modified 70% of those assets with those borrowers that were in it, I'd have made a whole lot more money and a higher return by getting monthly payments coming in within 30 to 60 days, no attorney fees, reduced servicing costs, no rehab costs to sell the note. I would have made a whole lot more money by keeping people in their houses. So that's why we try to do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, Jeremy, there's times that we'll buy a note. We know it's vacant. We know we're going to foreclose. We buy a lot of reverse mortgages too, where the borrower is deceased or vacant properties. In some cases, we know that. But there's also times we'll buy a note knowing that the borrower is just difficult.
Not a nice person.
Yeah, not a nice person, but the great thing is we know that going into it, because when we are buying paper, we're not really buying the house, although we do due diligence of the property and the property value. But this is really what we're buying. We're buying this file here. Yeah. And so we're literally seeing the notes from the servicing company, the hardship letters, the payment, the loan application, the 1003 and stuff like that. So it's really kind of a great way to see what's really going on, kind of the mindset of the borrower in a lot of cases. Are they going to be easy to work with, or are we going to have to go the rough route and, have a come to Jesus meeting in a lot of cases?
So again, it shows you that, there's a lot of great potential here, but a lot of people probably aren't going to do this because they don't want to have to deal with what you're just talking about. Right. Mm-hmm. And everybody, I feel from my experience of being in real estate, everybody's just looking for the super easy, easy button from Staples that is just the perfect scenario where I don't have to spend any money and I just get showered in dollar bills every day with very few headaches and everything else. Right.
Are you smoking crack right now? What is that plan? What is that plan, Jeremy?
That's all over social media. If you just go on Facebook, everybody's just like, hey, I have no money. Teach me how to wholesale so I can make $50,000 next month.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wholesaling. You don't need any money to wholesale. Nothing. Don't need a list. You don't need to do anything. Just slap it against the wall. And it only needs $5,000 on a shanty with a lien on it. Right?
Yeah. Just wake up, post on Facebook. You're good to go.
Yeah. You're going to fall over with people with their credit cards or wire instructions up in their hand. But no. I mean, here's the thing. It's like any type of other type of real estate investing. And I'm coming as a real estate investor, I've done a lot of different niches. I like this niche because I can do this from anywhere. It's a little bit different mindset. Yes, you can wholesale notes like you wholesale property, but you still got to understand marketing. You understand drip marketing, building a buyer's list, and understanding the deal, right? I'm sure that drives you bonkers. And, I got a deal. No, you have a dud. You think it's a deal, but it's a dud when the numbers come back. You know what I mean? So it's like learning anything else. And we've got 10 like different exit strategies for the deal, depending on what the borrower wants to do and stuff like that. So you got to understand it.
I love that.
But that's the thing is, yes, we deal with the paper, the property, and then the borrower. The 3 Ps, as we always say, the people, the paper, and the property. So you do a little bit more due diligence, but the thing I always liked was getting this stuff in on a regular basis. Once you made a connection, they're going to feed you on a regular basis. I've been into houses where I walked in and wanted to strip down and get rid of the clothes after I walked out.
Haven't we all?
We have. I mean, that's, if you haven't done that, you're not a real estate investor. As Ron LeGrand likes to say, the smell of shit and piss is the smell of money, and I would agree to him. But I don't necessarily want to walk through shit and piss to get the money.
Exactly. That's too funny. Well, I love this business model because, a couple different things. One, like when we buy houses, obviously we started as wholesalers almost 10 years ago.
Yep.
But now we're professional house buyers, right? So we're buying houses direct from seller, off market, but we have various exit strategies. And I feel like having multiple exit strategies is really important because you just talked about COVID and other things, right? There's market shifts that come and go. If you're a one-trick pony, the market may put you out of business. But if you have different ways to make money off of one property, I think that flexibility is going to allow you to survive long-term. Now you're saying you're able to get a note. You have all these different ways to make money out of this specific note. But what I heard too, which I really love, is, I'm sorry, but when I get a seller to sell me a house, that seller doesn't keep coming back, giving me more houses to buy over and over again. But when you build relationships with these bank managers or these bank VPs, you're making their life easier. If you're a good person that performs and easy to work with, they're probably like, dude, how many more can you buy? When can you buy more? Here's another one. Here's another one. And then you get to a point where, like, I don't want that one. I'll take that one. I don't want that one. I'll take that one. Now you're cherry picking all the leads that come through, and that's amazing.
Well, the great thing, Jeremy, is most of the time you can cherry pick right now, right off the bat. You don't have to buy here. It's not an all or nothing kind of bid. I mean, occasionally you'll see that. Like, I'll give you an example. We were looking at a list of 20 multifamily, small balance multifamilies, anywhere from a 5-plex to a 78 unit, right? And some are in New York or New Jersey. I don't buy in New York or New Jersey. Okay. It takes 2 years to foreclose in New Jersey, 3 years in New York. That doesn't make any sense to me. Now I do buy in Ohio and Florida, which is judicial states. They can take a year. That's fine. But I don't want to be 3 years into something. Okay. Right. And they want, you got to buy all or nothing. Well, I'm not going to buy anything in that I would buy these 12, the 78 unit in Indianapolis, a 33 unit in North Carolina, a 22 unit in Houston. I gave them very competitive bids, and they came back, oh no, we want all or nothing. I was like, okay, fine. I'll just wait, because I know nobody else is going to buy everything on. If they do, they're stupid. If they do, I'll be able to track them down and say, hey, let me buy one off from you, because you can get some of your capital back. Or just know in 90 to 120 days, that lender is going to be much more motivated to move as we get to the end of the year, and they really got to get this shit off their books. So
that's amazing.
That's the thing, is it's probably actually over 60% of the deals we close are in the follow-up of bids that weren't accepted initially, or our first offer wasn't accepted and somebody else outbid us, but that deal fell through because they didn't do their due diligence correctly on the front end. So that's the nice thing.
Yet another example why money's in the follow-up. And for us, when people who are listening, you're going direct to seller, because they went under contract with somebody else or listed it with a realtor. My company, we stay with them until closing day, because you'd be surprised how many times deals fall through at the closing table, or they get sick of the agent after 3 months and cancel the contract. And if you're not front and center, you're not going to be there. So I love that. I was going to ask you about some of those states, and you kind of got ahead of that. So I understand. I own 2 properties in New York. I owned more in New York at one point. I used to do a lot of business in New York. I never want to go back to New York again. Massachusetts, so I'm buying turnkey rentals down in Mississippi. Love it. Florida, love it.
So Mississippi's got one of the biggest distress rates in the country.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that leads to opportunities for people that can come in and buy something at a discount and then have the opportunity. I mean, you can foreclose relatively quickly in Mississippi for the most part, but just knowing where your market is. And the fact is, okay, I'll buy a lot of owner occupied stuff in other parts of the country that people want, because I'll look at the borrower and say, okay, you look like you're good. You've sent in 4 hardship letters wanting to modify your loan or come up with a payment plan, and the numbers make sense. I don't know why the lender hasn't done it, but we'll go ahead and buy that and approve your modification immediately to get you back on track. And it's just a cash flow. I don't even have to collect the rent. Or they pay a servicing company monthly, and a wire shows up in my account on the 5th or the 15th. You know
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that too. So no property management. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Yep.
Another thing you mentioned like 33 unit buildings. And I started thinking to myself, as you were saying that, I'm like, wow, I never even thought of like large multifamilies. And with the interest rates, there's a lot of people that were in syndication these last couple of years that got themselves in big, big trouble. and a lot of these places are foreclosing. So now you can get yourself maybe that 50 unit, 100 unit complex at 50, 60 cents on the dollar by holding the note. You don't necessarily own the property, but you own the note, which is a pretty good place to be. So there's opportunity there, sounds like, too.
There is. So let's talk about some of the differences in commercial notes versus residential notes. Okay. In
Please.
most commercial multifamilies, once the borrower defaults on making the mortgage payment, the borrower has the rights to collect the rents directly. So we've done that. We bought debt to multifamily. Borrower wasn't paying us. That's fine. We just enforced the right to collect the rents. It's literally written into the mortgage.
That's awesome.
That's the great thing. Second thing, a lot of commercial notes, especially these days, were mezzanine loans, short-term 3 to 4 year loans and stuff like that. Well, we know what's happened with interest rates. Well, guess what? The interest rate doesn't stay fixed. It goes to a default rate of sometimes 18, sometimes 18. I've seen it as high as you get this 48% a default rate.
Yeah. And they can't refinance out of it now because the rates are higher. So they're screwed after that 5-year fixed pay rate.
Exactly. So the thing you have to keep in mind, though, is depending on where the values and the rates and what kind of other liens are on the property. Sometimes, especially in these bigger units, like 200 plus units, the banks aren't necessarily going to take a big discount on the paper. They just can't afford to. So they'll foreclose with a goal in mind that, hey, we're going to hold on to this asset. We're just going to hire a third party to manage it, let the market kind of settle out. Then we'll look to sell it off. But the biggest opportunity really right now I see on the commercial side is that sub $5 million valued note. I mean, that leads to a lot of smaller, 50, 100 unit or minus multifamilies out there that are great opportunities for folks out there. If you know how to manage that and operate that, obviously. Obviously, you and I both know it's different buying a single family home versus buying a multifamily. But if you like that, that's something I would definitely highly be looking for.
Now, this is all amazing, Scott. And like anything else, this is really exciting. I would love to learn about this and add it, but I would never do that without hiring somebody who knew better than I did, right? I guess you could just YouTube your way to success here, but I would not strongly suggest that you don't. I would hire somebody like yourself. I believe you do have a coaching program, so we could pay you. You could teach us all the logistic steps, because this is simple, but it's also kind of detailed and it could be a little intricate. But once you know all the terminology, the ins and outs of everything, it's probably not that hard to figure out, but you just need somebody to teach you how to do it. So teach us a little bit about your coaching program and how you teach other people how to get into this business, please.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You're 100% right. You can YouTube and podcast learn your way, but it's going to take you 6 months or longer. I mean, you go to WeCloseNotes.tv, which was where the number one YouTube and number one podcast for note investors out there, with tons of great videos of breaking down tapes and going through case studies and stuff like that. It's a great thing. And you're going to learn more by buying your first note than you ever would with a class, but you still got to know what to do. Exactly. So we've got a couple of different facets. We actually have a free class. It's a free, like a 3.5 hour class. It's a great kind of dip your toe in the water, see if you like it thing. And it's me going through teaching how the basics of how we find, fund, and flip these things, and that's, if you go to noteweekend.com, no credit card required, you can take a 3.5 hour class and learn the basics of note investing. And we only focus primarily on non-performing stuff. A monkey can collect on a performing note, but non-performing, you got to know when the shit's going to hit the fan, and the shit's hitting the fan if you're watching the news, anybody right there. Then we have a 3-day class, which is more of our nuts and bolts. That's notebuyingfordummies.com. It's about $500. It's me teaching you 3 days, a full day on how we find these deals from banks, what to say, what not to say, how to build a list of 5,000 asset managers in minutes, how you can drip market to these people, and then leverage LinkedIn. A full day on raising capital, how we find thousands of IRA investors at county records who are looking for deals, who have money to invest. I mean, it's kind of freaky how fast we'll find IRA investors. And then we'll show you our step-by-step process for reaching out and connecting with them and getting them to fund your deals. And then it's a full day also on structuring, due diligence, and putting the money with the deals together to make it a win-win across the board. Like I always say, like, it's like anything else, it takes some time. You talked about follow-up. 80% of sales comes after the fifth touch. So you got to follow up with folks. It's the same thing with raising capital. Got to follow up with people like anything else. But if you understand that, you can build that into your marketing scheme. Sure. And this is not a get rich quick scheme. Let me tell you that right now. This takes time. It takes dedication.
Nothing is.
Right. But you don't have to be a 40-hour, 50-hour work week. Most of our students are doing this 10 hours a week, after hours, a couple of hours on the weekend. But there are notes out there. There's some platforms that have these available. You can start looking at. But banks are literally looking to move stuff off their books, unlike they've not done in really the last 5 or 6 years. But we're seeing the phones, the emails coming from bankers and sellers like, hey, what are you buying? Are you interested in looking at this, which we hadn't seen in a while? And then, of course, we have one-on-one coaching where I hold your hand through the process for 6+ months and help you close your first deal. And we've had students close on 20 deals in their first 60 days, make 6 figures. It is possible to make 6 figures in this business.
Yeah.
We give a game plan. Like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years, bought over $1 billion. I don't have kids, Jeremy. So I like to say that my students are my note family, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I love it, dude. I love it. And, as we talked about, like this is a good time to get in now, because the next 12 to 24 months is going to create a great opportunity. So the people are going to catch wind too late, right? You want to be ahead of the trend, not after it. So I strongly suggest if anybody listening has interest in this, they should definitely reach out to Scott Carson and take action immediately. Get learning now so you could come out on the other 12 to 24 months on the good side and not on the outside looking in, wishing you would have, could have, should have. So
now Jeremy, you do stuff with distress bar, but you also do stuff with subject to deals, right? Where you get people that are motivated to walk away too.
We do some sub 2 deals, not a ton, but it's a tool in our tool belt for sure.
Sure. So one of the great things that when we get these lists from banks, it's got the borrower's name, all the mortgage information, how far behind. So if we can't buy the note at a price that makes sense, we'll market directly through one of our other entities direct to the borrower to take over the note subject to the existing financing. So this leads to a ton of leads coming in that are, like I said, 6 to 12 months ahead of what most people are seeing too.
Wow. Yeah. We got a couple of sub 2s going on right now. So that's very interesting. All right. So Scott, you gave us some contact information, but tell us all the ways that everybody listening can find you right now.
Easiest way is go to WeCloseNotes.com. That's our main website. That's the mothership. You'll find our podcast, the Note Closure Show, Note Night in America, that's on there. Our YouTube channel is WeCloseNotes.tv. I mean, over 4,000 videos on there, just under 10,000 subscribers, over 1 million views on our YouTube channel there. And we do a variety of things besides just, talking about the intricacies of foreclosures or buying a note. We'll actually take a list of notes of 200 and show you how to break them down to find the true needle in the haystack that turns out to be good stuff there for you. Now, I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass, but I will tell you straight up, yes, you can do this. No, don't do that. And I will make fun of myself. I'm an open book on things because I've been doing this for a long time. So we've had our ups, our downs, and in-betweens. And the best thing I can tell you right now, I love what I do. That's why I do the voodoo that we do. You know what I mean?
I love it. And I think that's what makes you a great coach. When it comes to coaching, people that have the experience, have been through the ringer, the good things and the bad things, and learned all those mistakes, are people that you want to be learning from, and that are still actively doing it, right? Because things can change. If you were buying notes 10 years ago, that may not be the same as today, but the fact that you're still running a business and teaching others to do the same thing that you do each and every day in your business is what I look for in a coach, and I love that. Scott, amazing episode. So much to unpack here and listen to, and I think our listeners need to listen to this again. I hope that they reach out to you to get involved in this, and I really appreciate you taking time to share all this great stuff on our podcast today.
Hey man, it's been an honor to be on here. You keep kicking ass and taking names too. I love what you're doing. Absolutely love your energy, brother. That's the beautiful thing about this is that there's not enough of us sharing enough information out there to do it the right way in today's world.
I agree with that.
You're doing a great job too.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, guys, that's it for this week's episode of the REI Freedom Podcast. Yet another way that you can build life of freedom, time freedom, financial freedom through real estate investing in a different way that you never thought of, buying distressed notes from banks. I love it. Scott was an awesome guest today and brought a lot of great value. If you guys haven't, definitely go check out his stuff. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for listening and appreciate all your support. Remember, always be taking massive or perfect action. Don't let analysis paralysis kill your dream. If you want to do it, go do it. We'll see you next week on next week's episode. Take care, guys.
Join us on our journey to achieve ultimate freedom through real estate investing. We understand that the road to success isn't easy, but together we can overcome any challenge. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us grow and reach more aspiring individuals. Visit our website to access additional resources and join our email list. Follow us on social media at REI Freedom for more updates. If you're interested in our acquisition coaching programs, visit reifreedom.com for more information. Let's go.
Hey, real estate investors, this is Scott Carson. I'm known across the country as a note guy. For the past 20 years, I've been buying distressed assets, primarily non-performing notes on residential commercial properties. And if you've ever wanted to learn how to dive in to start buying non-performing notes from banks, hedge funds, or other investors like yourself, then there's no greater place than to get the nuts and bolts, the A to Z, the 1 through 99 place to get started. It is our virtual note buying workshop. We've been teaching this class since 2010 on how to find, fund, flip non-performing notes, how to get banks to call you with deals that you can cherry pick. And no, you don't need millions. No, you don't need a lot of experience to start looking at non-performing notes. We get lists of notes from banks, hedge funds on a regular basis, not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, but hundreds of deals that we can evaluate and cherry pick. Whether we're looking for performing notes or non-performing notes that we can get reperforming, or non-performing notes you can foreclose and take back, whatever your niche or whatever you would like to focus on, we can help make it happen at the virtual note buying workshop. It's a 3-day class. Our next one is April 18th to the 20th. It's actually online live via Zoom. You get signed up by going to notebuyingfordummies.com. That's notebuyingfordummies.com. Day 1 is all about how to find these assets. How do you find asset managers? How do you find lists of people to reach out to that you don't have to spend thousands of dollars on postcards or letters that you waste money on? We don't do that. Day 2 is all about raising capital and marketing and how to create a business that feeds itself, that you can do part-time, 10 hours a week, 5 hours a week, depending on what your focus is. We'll show you a game plan to achieve deal flow coming in on autopilot versus you having to send a ton of money. And also, we'll show you how to raise capital like nobody else does. And then day 3 is all about the flip. How do we structure deals? How do we evaluate a tape to find the deals from the duds? All right. We'll show you what vendors to use. We'll give you a 200+ page manual, contracts, sample forms, all the stuff that you need to be a lean, mean note buying machine when you get wrapped up. Now, yes, this is live April 18th through the 20th online via Zoom. Get signed up today. We'll send you the replays of the previous online workshop so you can start learning, start evaluating material, and get rock and rolling. And if for some reason you don't like our class, we have a 100% money back guarantee involved with it. If at the end of the first day you don't like what we talk about, you don't think it's impactful, just let me know. We'll refund back your tuition, no questions asked. We don't want your money. We want you to become a note buyer. We want you to become a lien lord, all right? Like I said, if you're tired of dealing with toilets, sinks, and trash outs, you don't want to deal with renters, then becoming a note investor is the path for you. Everybody evolves into a note investor at some point, but there are plenty of opportunities out there. There are millions of non-performing notes that you can cherry pick. No, it's not all junk. It can be small value all the way up to $1 million homes or $1 million apartments for you. So much opportunity is taking place right now in the chaotic market that we see. And who's going to come out on top? Note investors will. So take the time, get signed up today, April 18th to the 20th. Go to notebuyingfordummies.com or go to our website, weclosenotes.com, and sign up for the virtual workshop there. As always, get signed up today. We run discounts all the time. The cost of tuition is you plus your partner or spouse. So get signed up today at notebuyingfordummies.com, and we'll see you at the top.